All right, you know it's observation 6 when I just recorded like 30 seconds of video with it turned facing the other direction. So you were getting a great video of a whiteboard. So starting again, this was observation 6, and the theme was academics. And something I kind of reflected on in my final paper is that doing these observations has actually changed my schedule in my classroom. So that my teaching assistants have taken over part of the instructional day, so that it's a whole group instruction, so it's kind of the easiest part, but so that I can take a minute to step back and really look at kind of the why and how of what we're doing much more frequently. And sometimes I think I get to, I don't know exactly the right words, but just too close in to really get a good picture of what's happening. So this was kind of some academics. I tried to focus a little bit more on one student, but by default of my whole class being there, I definitely saw everything. I mean, obviously. So this kind of was an overlapping time of, we start with our whole group instruction of circle time, and then moved into one-on-one and independent work. And this one student I was looking at moved straight to independent work. I think another thing that this really allows me to do by taking this observation break during the day is kind of fine tune the skill and craft with my paraprofessionals, and because they obviously don't have the background knowledge, so just really getting the opportunity to coach and teach there as well. So our circle time is a visual schedule, and my teaching assistant, Ms. Mendoza, she went through each step of that. It's kind of a traditional circle time. Start with a fun song that's really interactive and working on, why can't I think of the word? Working on, not echoing, but modeling. I can't think of that word right now. Anyway, and then through some calendar skills, when we look at the academics of that, every student had an interactive notebook. Those interactive notebooks are individualized by ability level. So this particular student I'm looking at, we call him Dimmy. That's a nickname for, and he is able to write. He is a writer, and so he was able to fill out the calendar information. We do that every day. It's something that my students, it's a really, time is a pretty abstract concept, and so it's something that my students tend to need a lot of practice on. So he was able to write today is yesterday was tomorrow will be, and fill in those things. We also do some work with the weather, and he was able to do, and again, this was individualized. So for him, he's able to actually check off the weather conditions outside after looking at a forecast and looking out the window. We use both modes, and then we also incorporate music during this time. A couple of my students receive music therapy as a related service, and so we do music to kind of change the mode of language input as well. So, and then as we transitioned from there and looked at academic tasks and independent and one-on-one time, one of the things they do is a program called Teach Town. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's an online program or software that it actually does online discrete trials, and they get reinforcement for correct answers, and they remove answers when they don't get it correct the first time, so they force that errorless participation. And so some of the things that this student was working on was the concept of yes and no. He was working on identifying toys specifically, and he was working on, I have this in my notes. I don't know, something else that was relatively abstract. And within that same program, other students are working on things like matching picture to picture. So it's a pretty interesting and useful tool. They do it for 20 minutes a day. Then in the student's one-on-one work, he was working on he was working on some addition. He's working on personal information, and then answering WH questions. So within that, the kind of some of the structure of that was that the WH questions that's again more abstract, and so he's given some picture cards to answer those with. the personal information, he is still at a place where he's copying that information. And then the addition, he had some, he was using pictures to do that. So there's some visual supports in that that is really useful. And then, so I think the supports are, those visual supports are maintained across settings and are really, really crucial for academic skills. And then also using those things, a lot of those things are really easy to translate into inclusive settings. Now, this observation was done in a self-contained setting, but this student is really good at going in and he really craves the time with neurotypical peers, and so he's really good at being able to take those things that he's using in my class, those visual supports, and those visual supports help him to be successful in those other settings. Yeah, so I really enjoyed this observation time. Like I said, it really kind of changed the way I think and operate in my own classroom to make sure that I'm giving myself as a professional enough time to step back and really observe what's happening from a more objective standpoint, and not if you get too close in, sometimes emotions run too fuzzy, or you just you don't even really see the big picture of what's happening. So I super appreciate your time and all that you've done for us this semester, and I've really enjoyed this program, and I hope to cross paths with you again. Thanks.